Okay, making sure this was on. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next generation of donors, motivating millennials to give now. Again, my name is Chessie, and this is Nick, and we are so honored to be here. Thank you to this amazing organization, CWR, for having us at your conference this year. So for this session, we're just going to give a description, to make sure you're in the right place. How prepared is your fundraising program to engage the next generation of donors? Millennials are currently the nation's largest living adult generation. So think about that for a moment. With immigration adding more numbers to this group than any other, the millennial population is projected to peak in 2036 at 76.2 million. Today, you will learn about the millennials' impact on giving and actionable ways that you can take this back to engage the next generation of donors. So we want to make sure that you're in the right place. And since we have the time, we're going to introduce ourselves, and then we would love to get a little more about y'all, because we want to make sure that you're getting and what you want out of this session. So again, my name is Chessie Hayes. So my favorite quote is to be the change that you wish to see in the world. My mother, growing up, that is what she told me. When I used to get in trouble, she would tell me, is that how you're going to change the world and leave an impact? It was like the guilty side, so thanks, Mom. She's watching my 6-month-old right now, so I love her with all my heart. My favorite activities, I love to cook and I love to volunteer. Again, I'm very well known right within the city because I love to volunteer at local Rotaries, our local AFP chapter. And I love to cook enchiladas and spaghetti. As you heard about this before, I know about garlic, but I can't even cook with it anymore because my husband doesn't like it. And my favorite food is queso or a spicy margarita here and there. My husband can make a good spicy margarita. But I'm currently the Director of Development at Meriton. I've been there for around 6 years now. I'm also a part of our AFP Memphis local chapter. I'm speaking tomorrow with Jennifer Strain, who's our president of our AFP Association of Fundraising Professionals local chapter. And here comes Nick.
Thanks, Chessie. So Nick Kulik. You heard my little introduction. I'm from Ohio, so do I have any Ohioans here? Yes, thank you. I always hope for at least one. All right, so just giving you a quick run of this slide here. So favorite quote, do it anyway. Actually, for those of you, you probably know it's a Mother Teresa quote. I love it where my kids go to school in Bowling Green, Ohio. It's posted up on a stairway, and every time kids go up and down the stairway, they see it. So I think it's just a great. And if you read the entire poem, it's amazing. So if you haven't, please do. Favorite activity, feeding my curiosity. So I drove 10 hours in yesterday, and my wife and sister thought I was a complete nerd because I listened to podcasts and an audiobook the entire time down here. So that's just me, and that's how I am. But favorite food, anything I can grill, smoke, or boil. The one big thing that I love that came out of COVID is that my wife bought me a smoker, and I've been smoking like crazy ever since. I bought a big boil pot, and that's probably not as good as down here in Memphis, but I try my best to do a boil. So that's a little bit about us. Do we want to? Fantastic. We can keep going across, yeah. Fantastic. Awesome. I grew up in Cleveland, so the two of you, we're basically family. We're basically family. Fantastic. Come on, Ohio. Come on. All right. Go Falcons. Great. Fantastic. All right. There's the bar. There's the bar, Chessie. There's the bar. Awesome. Great. Fantastic. So, oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. awesome, great. Yeah, you know, those young people, we're all a problem, right? I mean, that's why I tell my parents this all the time. I'm like, I get it, you have gray hair because of me. I know this because my kids give me gray hair. So we're all good. Really great to hear what you all want to get out of this session. We have a lot of content for you that I think is going to be helpful. One of the things that I would definitely encourage is please ask questions along the way, because it's a lot more engaging when you all ask questions and then we can answer them. But the other thing I like about it is that someone else is thinking what you're thinking. And so that brave soul that raises their hand and says, I have a question, you're actually getting that answered for more than one person. So please ask questions throughout this. 3 things we want you to get out of this. Number 1, the potential and current impact of millennials' philanthropic efforts. Number 2, how to motivate and engage millennials in fundraising efforts. And 3, we're going to give you some success stories of things that we've seen that works with different organizations and people that we engage with in our community. So hopefully throughout this, you'll get some great ideas. And I will kick it over to Chessie.
All right, my bag is in the way. Give me 1 second. Okay, so let's hopefully, being tech savvy, let's see if this is going to work for me. I'm just going to do this because it's already pulled up. So if y'all go to slido.com, if you have your phones, you're more than welcome to get them out. You could take a picture of the barcode if you want, or you can go to slido.com and type in CWR. We'd like for y'all to say, describe millennials in 1 word. So tech savvy. I'm a millennial and so is Nick, but we're not the most tech savvy sometimes. It took us a while to set this up. Another conference we spoke at, we had the wrong slide deck out, so we're not the most tech savvy. I didn't call you out. I said one of us. I didn't call you out. But describe millennials in 1 word. And you can also say it out loud too if you're not able to get on your phones, if you just want to pop out and say it too. And I'll make like a word cloud when we get some responses in. Da, da, da. Engaging. Okay. Engagement. And some other words that we've seen. Oh, diverse. We've seen excited, busy, on the go. Here we go. Group, individual. Anyone else? Okay. Oh, social justice. Okay. Give y'all a couple more seconds. I know. Some of our groups were entitled was one that they said. I was like, thanks, you guys. You know, I'm a millennial right now. Thanks. Passionate. That was one that came up a lot, too, and that we've seen. Passionate. So what we're going to say is, what is a millennial? According to TechSoup, millennials are members of this demographic group between 1980 and 2000. Also known as millennials, they're motivated by the goal of making the world a better place. And why we chose this quote, 1, because of the age being between 1980 and 2000, but most importantly, number 2, are motivated by the goal of making the world a better place. Anything that you have to do with regards to communications and fundraising, if you keep this at the center of your mind when attracting millennials or young professionals in the workplace, if you have this in the center of your mind, your fundraising will improve already. So, projected population by growth. So as I said earlier, the millennials are the largest living generation. Do we want to close that door if you don't mind? I would like for y'all to hear Nick and I. So you can see right here, millennials, we're not dwindling. If anything, we're going to be growing by 2036 with 76.2 million. Unfortunately, the other generations are going to be dropping off. So the reason why that we wanted to bring this to your attention today, which, as you know, what you've said, the same reason, you want to build that pipeline, especially for your major gifts that Nick will discuss along the presentation. And here you go, Nick.
So the nice thing is that Chessie just described what a millennial is from the demographic perspective, from the age perspective. One of the things that we found that I think is a great resource that everyone should just take a look at, especially if you're trying to brand or market to millennials, is the Millennial Impact Report. Has anyone ever seen this before? Write it down. You can Google it. You can get all these materials for free. It's a great resource. So this was a 10-year study of millennials from 2009 to 2019. There was over 150,000 millennials that participated in this study. So the data in it from an academic perspective is amazing, right? Because how many studies do you see on cause or social issues have that many participants? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a high level of the 10 biggest takeaways from this report. And then that'll help inform sort of where we're going after this, but also it's great information to take back to your organizations. So starting at the top here, millennials see themselves as everyday change makers. That means that they will go out of their way to ensure that the actions that they take make a difference. So that's really important. And that leads into the second one, which is activism. Millennials really believe in activism, and they believe that they should do it in both a public and private format. So you'll see this in a variety of different ways, people having personal conversations, maybe with their friends or family, but also posting stuff on social media, or even being a part of bigger organizations doing things. What I found really interesting about this point was 71% of millennials in the study said that they saw voting as activism. So you think about this, whether it's in a big election year or if there's some sort of voting within your group or region, this could be a really great way to get millennials involved because of the impact they see there. Now, the other thing that's really important are social issues. So in this study, the 4 major social issues that rose to the top were healthcare, inclusion, equality, and poverty. So those 4 items were the items that across the board were the highest rated by this generation. So when you're thinking about this group could be a great one to engage in that work. So think about even during the recent years of how during the formative years of the millennial generation, big things have happened. Black Lives Matter movement, right? The Women's March on Washington, a lot of immigration reform conversations, Marriage Equality Act. There's a bunch of things that have happened that impact this generation and their thoughts and views of the world. Now, since they're very, very passionate about social issues, the flip side of that is they're not as passionate about institutions. So I dealt with this a lot when I used to work in higher education. Our older donors loved the alma mater. It didn't matter what the alma mater did. It didn't matter if there was controversy. They loved the alma mater. Millennial generation, not the same. If something happens, they will walk away from the organization. In fact, in this study, 90% of millennials said if they lose trust in an institution, they will never give to it again. So we know the importance of donor trust, right? That's how you get recurring gifts. That's how you get people involved in your organization. That's how you grow them in the major gift pipeline. But it's even more important for the millennial generation because they are willing to cut ties very easily with organizations if they lose trust. Another thing that's really important is that it's all about collective action. Millennials aren't necessarily looking at going out on their own and doing something individually. They're looking at it as a group effort. So another thing, we're going to talk about this a little bit more later, but another thing, collective action is extremely important. The greater good. So I found this one really interesting. So they came out very clearly that millennials are more interested in the greater good than bipartisan politicking. And so where we see a lot of this in our world today, and we've really seen it for the past few years, what the millennials are really thinking is we want to get back to causes that are going to make a broader difference. And even in this study, they said they have little faith in the government to make any action or progress in the areas of poverty, culture, and race. So again, if there's any of those things coming to mind for your organization, that's another area where they see it as the government's not going to solve this problem. So some other organization needs to come in and be part of that. So good to know. Sector agnostic, this is kind of just a fun one that I threw in there that I thought was interesting. So millennials are more likely to buy products if it's combined with a point of sale fundraiser. So I buy something and part of the money goes to a charity, or with socially responsible organizations. So they're not looking to say like, I just want to buy the big box this. If they see that an organization is socially conscious or is connected to some sort of fundraising effort to support a charity, they're more likely to buy products. Now, the innovative approach, this goes back to the last slide. If you think about this, it makes complete sense. If you have a generation that wants to be change makers, and then you also have a distrust of institutions, that means that they're naturally going to want to come together and try to find an innovative new way to solve problems. So even in the way you're messaging, the work that you're doing, it may be good to show that you're trying new ideas or trying something different, because if it's the same old, right there, you're not speaking to this demographic. Millennials believe in all actions matter, right? So as something as small as resharing a post all the way up to getting involved in being frontline on some sort of fundraiser or volunteer effort, Every little thing is important to them. So keep that in mind, because that could be easy engagement opportunities for you all. And lastly, very influenced by their peers. So you're going to see this more and more. You probably already have heard this plenty of times. We're actually going to talk later how the influence of peers helps with peer-to-peer fundraising campaigns. And so we'll come back around to this in just a moment. But those were the 10 takeaways. And I believe you all will have access to these slides afterwards, so you should have this. But those were the 10 big takeaways from this really great study.
Okay, so we have another poll. What generation are you targeting for your giving efforts? So I'm going to get that pulled back up. And we have to go. There we go. So, what generation are you targeting for your giving efforts? Generation Z, Generation Y / Millennials, Generation X, Baby Boomers, or the mature generation? And if you're not able to access the slide or get the barcode for some reason, you can say it out loud too. We can have a conversation in the room. Oh wow, there we go. So Generation X and Baby Boomers. We have some matures. Let's see if I scroll down. I can get access to all of it.
And just so you know, this is not uncommon.
This is why we wanted to show y'all this. So, well, think about it. If other organizations, and this is why we wanted to show it to you, do an active poll. This is for everyone in the room. If most of them are targeting baby boomers, who's targeting your millennials right now? More than likely, your millennials want to give to you. The reason why they're not giving it to you is because you haven't asked them. If you haven't asked, then they're not going to give to you, right? That's a statistic from AFP Global. So if you're asking that generation, that's why your baby boomers are giving to you. And when you take the courage and build that stewardship plan for your millennials, they're more than likely going to give to you. Let me get back to the next slide. There we go. So when you're discussing millennials, right, we want to know what a millennial truly is. So when you're coming up with a communications plan, so when I say this, I am a fundraising director at Meriton, but most local nonprofits around this area, they hire one person to do the show, right? So I do marketing, communications, volunteer coordination. I control our website, our social media. I do our annual fund. I also do our special events, planned giving, major gifts. I do it all at my organization. So it's a handful of what I do. So I'm saying this on the communication side as well as the fundraising side. So when you're talking about generations and you're talking about millennials specifically, this data is from the Generational Fundraising Tips by Andrew Showoff. And this is from 2013, but the message is still relevant. Think about when you're targeting your messaging, what a millennial has gone through and what makes a millennial. So for example, internet, social media, Netflix. For me, my husband and I, we don't own cable. We pay for streaming services instead. So if you're thinking about any advertising that's in your budget, for example, maybe not doing an ad on a local news channel may not be your best thing for you. Instead, maybe ordering a stream service or going through YouTube may be more your avenue. Also, I hate to, Memphis went through a tragedy, 2 tragedies this past week. We had one of our elementary schools have gone through a shooting. Another kid unfortunately shot another kid. Unfortunately, he is safe and he's back at school. And the week before, one of our local Krogers had a shooting and there were over 15 victims. So very sad. But those are tragedies that are shaping our children's lives. So even past millennials, think about what millennials went through. We went through 9/11. That's when we grow up, and then that's why we're so involved in social justice, is because that's what we've grown up to see. That was the first tragedy that we really saw. Another thing we talked about was the Black Lives Matter movement. So when you're thinking about your communications and your messaging, think about what your millennials are doing currently. They're involved in that booming of social media. They're involved in that booming of streaming services. They also are going through student loans right now, right? So it's the largest student loan debt that we've ever seen. And so they may not make a major gift for you just now. I know I'm not able to make a huge major gift just yet, and I am a millennial. I am 29 years old. But for organizations that, make the effort and reach out to me and create a stewardship plan for me, I'm creating an estate plan with my husband because we just had a 6-month-old, right? So think about those things. Those millennials who are getting married or going through a life event or moving into a new home, they're updating their estate plans, and you want to be sure that you're on the forefront of their minds to include you in those plans. All right, Nick, we'll take it away. He's going to talk about how to engage them in your major gift pipeline.
So Chessie was hitting it on the head. I think for a lot of us, when we look at millennial donors, we really see them in that first category of an annual gift, right? The $5, $25, $100 gift that someone gives because they're doing a mailer or they're doing something else. And so what we really want you to start thinking about is millennials in a little bit of different light. So as you start looking at millennials in this age group, which I believe the oldest are turning 40 this year or did turn 40 last year. So now you have people who are starting to become mid-career, right? And so some of those things have now changed for them, or maybe they're starting to get into higher earning years than they were previously. They're able to get back a little bit more. Maybe they've gone beyond buying the first house and all those items. So a mid-sized gift is a great opportunity for a lot of the older millennials, where now you're taking that maybe $100 gift and talking to them about doing, well, maybe you can do a $500 gift, $1,000 gift. Whatever your mid-sized gift level is, you know, that's your organization. So I'll just say, keep that as a grain of salt as you're listening to me here. But it also allows for the opportunity to say, let's start doing those multi-year commitments. So let's take that opportunity to ask someone to say, well, can you do $250 gift for the next 2 or 3 years? Can you do a $500 gift for the next 2 or 3 years? You know, there's this interesting study that was done by a professor named Russell James. He's down at Texas Tech University, big writer within our field. People who create pledges are less likely to skip on their pledges because they're going to feel bad if they don't pay them. And it's really fascinating. He does this whole study with the examination of the brain when they're talking about pledges and stuff. I'm nerding out a little bit, so I'll bring it back now. But the idea of give the opportunity for people to give on a regular basis. So, yes. Yeah, recurring gift programs are amazing. For those of you who don't do them, you should really consider it. Yes, so at one point you can sign someone up and you can say, can you do $5 a month? Can you do $10 a month? They put it on their credit card and they run it, right? And so the beauty of those programs too are usually they just keep going until the donor says, I don't want to do it anymore. So it allows them to continue to give. You know, honestly, yep. Yeah, it's great. Chessie, is there anything you'd like to add to that? Yep. Well, no, that's great. yeah, so I would say that with direct mail, you may be missing the target market when it comes to millennials, right? Well, first and foremost, I mean, I look at my mail and I get yelled at pretty regularly at home that my mail's been sitting in the same place for a while. I haven't looked at it. I apologize to my wife about it. But no, I mean, like even the annual mailers that I get from organizations, it just doesn't even work for me because I see it as just clutter. And so I would say that's probably not the best route to go. So these are always trends, not always the rule. So there are some organizations that might be really good with direct mail and somehow they connect with millennials better. I would say that you probably want to move to more social media platforms to connect and then really start to build a following where people can be part of it. Because remember, so getting back to the idea of it's about the social issue, not the institution. So help this person do this. Yes.
If y'all don't mind, I'll go off the presentation just a little bit and go to our website so you can see. It's not published right now, but I know our flyer looks very similar. It's not as wordy. Whenever I think of some organizations, when they come up with like an annual report of what it may be, there's not a lot of white on the page. It's very wordy, but instead, if you're going to send a direct mail campaign, what I do is I use the same story that I'm sending in my direct mail campaign, and I use it on my social media pages. So I'll use it on my Facebook, my LinkedIn, my Twitter, my Instagram. I'll also publish it to our post. And LinkedIn is so underutilized. Think about how many, you don't have to have millennials emails, right? You can go make a connection on LinkedIn and say, hey, my name is Chessie Hayes. I'm the Director of Development at Meriton, and I would just love to make a connection with you. You're such a great volunteer from what I can see on your resume. Let's have a conversation. And you can already have a prospect donor that way. So this is our webpage. We use Squarespace, so it's not the most tech savvy by all means. Wrong thing. Meriton News. See, and some of this is not as mobile utilized as it can be. But I'm going back to, I'm trying to find our Silver Bells. I'm going to go to my event first. My bad, I went to the wrong thing. Silver Bells 2021. So it connects to our website. Oh, I didn't mean to scroll. Normally our flyer's here. I don't know why it's not popping up. Oh, here it is. It's down below. That is what our flyer looks like. I wish I could open image, a new tab. We'll see if that makes it better. That's what our direct mail campaign looks like. So it gives you a good thing. Seniors love Christmas too. This is what they're looking for. So we have in-kind donations that come in because it's specific to a senior. We added direct mail asking for donations back in 2000 and I want to say it was 16. Now we're already generating $15,000. That was within 2 years just asking for donations for just this campaign alone. We're probably projected to do like 20, 25,000 within this upcoming year. Individual donations for us have increased. Think about the donors who aren't able to go on vacations and do all these fun things like they used to, unfortunately, but they're wanting to give an impact and make a legacy at these organizations. So when you're doing a direct mail campaign, so we have this flyer, and then we have a flyer that's talking about this year. It's about a sweet woman. But years past, it was Miss Alma. And it's like, meet Miss Alma, and this is her caregiver, and this is her story of why she loves her in-home personal caregiver. She helps her with laundry, cleaning, and giving her a bath, and she loves to cook, and so she cooks with me, and she's my best friend, and it goes on for such a sentimental story. But I use that also for my thank you letters I write. Miss Alma says, thank you so much for my amazing gift, and I put her picture again. And tomorrow we talk about, Jennifer and I talk about using storytelling and not undermining those that you serve. So if you're interested in hearing more about that. But this is more an overall general. Sometimes when you get too wordy, as Nick says, it sometimes gets cumbersome and you're like, I'm just going to throw it away. I get it all the time when it looks something that's not personalized to me. I'm like, it's not to me. It's just to a general mail out. And sometimes it makes me upset when the organization sends it to me. I'm like, you just wasted 18 cents on postage, right? So when you're looking at who you're actually sending to, you can also tailor your messaging. So this could be your millennial handout, right? But your donors who have been more loyal to you, that are the matures or your baby boomer generation who love all those stories and they want to handwrite and look good, right? You can still send them that. Just do 2 different campaigns and really target and segment it.
The only other thing I would add is that nowadays there's a lot of software out there where, I mean, who would have seen their alma maters, this is our Founders Day, one-day campaign, this is our XYZ one-day campaign. A lot of that software not only extracts information from kids, they collect it. So to get to your point about how you collect information, sometimes it's worthwhile to go out and have a software group and then get that information back. And I say this not knowing what's in the software, we haven't been into, so I apologize if I'm something I'm totally wrong, if your guys are caught it, but it's a great opportunity. And so you have to look at the way you want to view those type of kids. So at the university, it's donor acquisition. They don't care if it costs them a bunch of money to do donor acquisition because it's getting new donors to the organization. So part of the game you have to play on the budget side is it worth the money? It may cost you more per dollar to get more donors, to get those new donors in the pipeline so you can have meaningful conversations and then cultivate them for the future. And then I know you also had a question.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so like I said with higher ed, just because since I was there before it went to the foundation, that's why they got away from it. You know, universities said we don't want to be part of your Tuesday, we don't want to be in the shuffle with everyone else. They just happen to have the great opportunity to say, well, our Founders Day is this day, our XYZ Day is this day, and then they're able to just put that day on the alumni base goes, yeah, that's great that they get involved, but you all have those days too. You have the dates that this major event for your organization happened. So it could be a celebration, it could be storytelling, it could be a way to raise money. So you should definitely take advantage and consider that. Move away from Giving Tuesday and do your unique thing in your area.
Yeah, Meriton, we're in the middle of our 60th anniversary, so we did a direct mail campaign specific to that. We've been trying to, we also do foster care. We have this beautiful room that's been empty. It's where foster care children go into this room during placement while the parents go talk to the social workers. We haven't been able to fund it in 4 years, but I tied it to our 60th anniversary and had Nike and Baptist fund the furnishings of that room. And so we're in the middle of, it's such an amazing room. Nick, I wish I could go take you to see it after this, but there's a software where kids can play. There's also there's activities they can do on the walls. It's all in the middle of being built now. But it took 4 years to do so. But again, we tied it with an anniversary and all the media marketing benefits that you can get from that. Another way, and we'll talk about this later, I talk about the 3 O's and ways to engage millennials specifically. I know we're probably pressing for time a little bit, Nick, so keep me on track with that. We'll go more into detail with that, but when you're doing volunteers, I have volunteers currently in Meriton who write letters for our seniors. I have their emails. And then I'm going to go back after our campaign's over and have those emails and email them all to say, can I add you to our email list? Would that be all right with you to learn more about Meriton and our volunteer opportunities? So that's another way after you make that first interaction.
So let's take the one last question now, and then we'll run through a couple more slides and continue.
So for me, what I usually did, and there's also job openings
Yeah, I would just say that what you're describing from like the peer-to-peer fundraising stuff, which we'll talk about in a little bit, Facebook and other platforms are going to be better. For LinkedIn, it's going to be more, I want to have that coffee with you, but I don't have your email. So if that's helpful. So real quick, we talked about this with the planned gift and the major gift contribution. You-
How about I answer your question? Because a lot of things that people forget about your staff can do this, but also volunteers can. If there's any problems with you that your volunteers want to help you and make sure that there's a gap that's missing with even board members or with your organization, I kind of cover that in 3 notes when we discuss that, and
Yep.
I'll cover that.
Yep, exactly. So just one quick thing that I just want to remind people of. So this was an article from in 2019 from Forbes, which was about the millennials becoming the richest generation in American history. Just quick stats. So as of that day in 2019, there were already 618,000 millennial millionaires. So there are people who are out there who are able to give major gifts, right? The average millennial millionaire was between 34 and 37. So again, just something to consider. And then lastly, by 2030, they're projected to inherit $68 trillion. Think of, I mean, this is huge. So your ability to engage them now, you might actually have a longer runway with these folks, which could have a large lifetime giving amount. So a lot of times we're looking at what's in front of us, and we're trying to do all those little things right. Lifetime giving is where you know you really did it well. And so here's where start working with them to get on that lifetime giving as they're inheriting that extreme amount of wealth.
We're going to try to go through this quick. So this is where we talk about engagement. The 3 O's: offering, going online, accessible and easy entry, offering that opportunity. Again, as Nick discussed, being providing activism, voting, petitions, protests, marches, whatever your organization can be involved in. It gets simple as I talk about this. I danced in college. And the LSU dance team was not able to go to nationals due to COVID because something with their athletic department didn't want them to go. And something with the training and the budget, and other colleges were going. They did a petition online, and all their alumni, other dance members in the community nationally, signed this petition for them to go. And they were able to participate in another way, but it was able to build their fundraising pipeline with their alumni. And offering motives and incentives. Going online. When you're talking about mobile cause or whatever it may be, making sure when you have your phone, a lot of organizations don't have a mobile-friendly page. So when you're having, sometimes it gets so frustrating, I get impatient and I want to donate, and I'm like, I can't scroll and find where I can type in. So make sure it's mobile-friendly, because we value that speed and efficiency. Have multiple ways to donate: check, credit card, text to give, mobile giving, peer-to-peer, making sure your Facebook page, for example, you're able to receive donations that way. You can sometimes on Facebook, I want to give on Facebook or like I did a Giving Tuesday campaign for my own organization. A lot of organizations forget that you can give on Facebook, especially if they're not targeting the millennial generation. They don't see it as an importance, but it's an opportunity for you to get free revenue and donations. So making sure it's mobile friendly, and you have a user-friendly donation landing page. Using your social media. You can use the same story several times. The difference is how you word it and change the messaging and targeting, whether it's on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. And if you don't have content, make sure it's qualitative content versus quantitative. Right? If it gets over fluctuating, I know some organizations or researchers say like post 5 to 7 days on Facebook or 20 days on Twitter. I'm a one-person team. Like, I don't have time for that. I'm going to post something that is what my readers want to read, and if it's not, then I'm not going to post it. So think about qualitative versus quantitative. For Meriton specifically, I think about positive reviews from Google, Yelp, Facebook. This is also, organizations forget this. If they're wanting to use your services and the first thing they pop up is Meriton used to be like a 3-star rating. I've increased it 3.8 on Google, and we use in-home care. So if I'm typing in Meriton in-home care and I'm wanting to use that for my mom and I see the ratings not great, I'm not going to go use your organization. Or, for example, a church, and I see a review saying not friendly, not welcoming. I don't think that's with y'all. But if that is the case, you want to really concentrate on your members, and it's easily as putting it on your e-news blast that you send out to your donors and say, we really need some positive reviews from you guys. Here's the link. Please make a positive review. It's very simple to do. Yelp, Facebook, your employees can increase it on Glassdoor. You just ask them to do it anonymously. Or salary.com is another one that's very popular. And don't underestimate the power of email. So if you have your emails of your donors, they're wanting to help you guys. And if you have a 5-minute Yelp review, it's very easy to do. Okay, offering opportunities. So this kind of helps with your volunteers. Creating volunteer opportunities designed for the millennial generation. If you have events, have a campaign committee per event. They want to provide pro bono services or creating or social media ambassadors. If you don't want to concentrate on the social media, if you don't want to do it, great way to do it is have your volunteers or millennials doing it because they love spending time on their phones majority of the time. I was talking about this with my mom's Bible group study this morning, is that it shows you how many hours you're on your Instagram or whatnot. I keep that on my phone. But if you think about it, if you have this opportunity online saying the sisters need your help, we are looking for social media advocates for our organization, and say, what do I need to do? You just post for us and here's sample content. It's very easy to do. More than if you I have business cards, and I can talk to y'all about like a social media policy that your ambassadors can provide. Pro bono services or creating a junior advisory board. Sarah Wiley talks about this specifically. You can connect with her on LinkedIn. But if they're a part of your board, or if you have a board, for example, or an organization that's your leadership of your organization, if you have a junior council that helps take the lead, it helps one, not have that gap, but two, they're more likely to help give to your organization, and then they are able to spread the word about your organization. Word of mouth marketing, especially with we are influenced by our peers. So if you just have someone, if you have a lawyer that's involved, or I just say a lawyer because I love Mr. Gary on my board, and he has a son or daughter, for example. I know that for her, she's going to be replacing my board member eventually, but that creates a council of saying, hey, Lucille, I would love for you to host an event at your house and talk about Meriton and get other millennials involved or those of your generation involved. And peer-to-peer campaigns, offering motives and incentives. I'm sorry, going too quickly. When you have an event, create something that's like VIP. Millennials love to feel special. So when I get offered a VIP band, I'm like, ooh, yeah. Nominate your millennial donors for community local awards. We have National Philanthropy Day, AFP does. I was nominated for an award and I won. So I'm like, yay, that's awesome. Someone's encouraging my millennial giving. We love that. So it's easy to do. Just take the extra 10 minutes to do so. And more than likely, if you ask the nominator for the form, they'll give you a brief bio. That way you don't have to look up and do it. Around here is also unique and relevant fundraising merchandise, and it kind of went to that already. Employee giving programs. If you have a corporate philanthropy partner and they're giving you a sponsorship for an event, maybe next time ask them, if you're not having your events right now because of COVID, say, instead of this, let's talk about doing payroll deductions for your employees and them giving back to the community and our nonprofit that way. I know I'm speaking fast, but I'm trying to get through this quickly. I'm just going to talk about this out loud. Does your fundraising include peer-to-peer fundraising? Okay, Nick?
So real quick on the peer-to-peer campaigns, and we talked about this earlier really with platforms, with the right social media platforms, the idea is to build campaigns that are achievable. So when you start out doing this, don't go out and try to do a $10,000 campaign right away. Try to build a little momentum, build smaller campaigns, $500,000, $2,500 campaigns to get people involved. Recruit a team of influencers. Chessie was just talking about this. It's that group, those team of millennials that you can get involved, that can get the information out there is extremely important. Matching money, we had that comment earlier. That's great. I mean, who doesn't want to sit there and say, can I turn my $1 into $2, right? So if you can get someone to do a match, I think those are one of the best ways to start getting folks involved at this level. And market for your audience. So just remember the information from the Millennial Impact Report. What message are you trying to give or trying to put out into the world that attracts millennials to be more involved with your organization? Not the institution, social issue. something like that where you can get them more and more involved. So the peer-to-peer, just to give you a quick illustration of how this looks, is that when you recruit the influencers to participate, you're that smaller ball right at the beginning in step one. But as those influencers are sending out information to all the people that they're connected with, that ball gets bigger. And a lot of times if you do this right, you ask the influencer to ask their friends to continue to send it out. So the little ball becomes bigger, 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 and then you have more impact and more ability to connect with those individuals. A few things to consider, and I mentioned this before, that there's companies out there that can do this for you, but you can also do these few things in-house to try to get all the information. So one, if you can collect contact information, do it. If you can find it, definitely try to get contact information so you can be in touch. Thank all your donors. We all know the importance of thanking donors, so I'm not going to go too much into that. Announce the impact of the fundraising. This is the part where I think most organizations fail. They don't go back out and say, this is how your gift made an impact. So, like at my church back home, we supported our project to help drill a well in Africa, right? Cool project, really glad to be a part of it. And it was awesome when our priest came back to us and said, we hit it, and here's a picture of the well that we helped drill, right? It makes you feel like you had an impact. And last, continue to connect with donors. If you can't get contact information, try to get them to like your pages. Because if they like your pages, then they will see stuff in their feeds from you. So continue a campaign of getting them to like your page. So I'm going to quickly go through this, and we got a couple more of these success stories. One of my favorites, this is a buddy of mine. We are all of the same age group. We all have kids. We all have families. He and his brother did a peer-to-peer fundraising campaign where they challenged each other to raise money. The one who raised the least amount of money became a human Sunday. Okay? So here's the thing about it, is that the money was all raised for the Dolly Parton Imagination Library program, which is big in our community. And so it was great because we had someone who was very active in the community, our influencer, who went out to all their friends, who most of us had families and kids, so we thought literacy is really important. And then there was a fun hook at the end because, God, I just wanted them to look like a Sunday. I thought that would be great. So this was a very successful campaign that raised thousands of dollars for the organization, but it followed the simple principles of how you use peer-to-peer fundraising, and one person can expand their effort way beyond what they're just doing.
Okay, and this is my now my best guy friend. He is actually a bridesman in my vow renewal. I got married during the pandemic, and so I'm having a vow renewal reception for my family who couldn't come. His name is Michael, very well established in the city, and so he's actually meeting Nick this evening. He's such an amazing friend of mine. And when I first met him, I was actually a great way to go out and meet millennials is going to happy hours and other networking events. And so I went to Telemi, which is part of it's the Younger Professional Organization for Carnival Memphis, which is like an organization that meets to have events and give back to children at children's nonprofits. And so he's a part of this group. I went to the happy hour group just to meet other millennials for myself. It was a great way for me, one, for me to gain new friends, but two, most importantly, for my organization, I was able to see millennials and giving and new donors. They had that interest and impact already. So I went to that event, met Michael. Not only did I give him to help him do an individual donor, but now if you haven't been to Arcade Restaurant, you need to. Him and his family, the Zapatos family, own it. Best breakfast in Memphis. It's downtown. You can get the Elvis Presley sandwich. It's peanut butter and bananas and something. Tell them I sent you because Michael's amazing. But he was also an individual donor. His family is very giving to the community. As you can see, he is involved in several different organizations because he loves to give. It's just what he does. I plan on nominating him for an award for his philanthropic efforts and his family. But now I got his family involved. His family now is a corporate supporter for one of my events. And so not only was I able to get him involved, I got his family involved. And he's a true friend of mine. And it's from us, it's a great perspective because he is so amazing to the community. And this is Kamisha. She is one of our local AFP board members. Why she gives to her nonprofit a choice, I just thought for her being, from her perspective and her being a female, and BIPOC female especially, I wanted to hear from her perspective. I asked her what organizations that she gave to, and this is what her response was for us. I give to the National Black MBA Association because I believe that having a platform for minority professionals to grow personally and professionally in local communities allows individuals to reach their maximum capacity in life. Kamisha is such a light. I love seeing her at board meetings, especially because she always brings that laughter and joy to our meetings. But think about it. That is why she gave, and that goes so well with our presentation, which is why we included it. She believes in her mission. As millennials, we give to causes. We don't give to institutions. It just goes back to that, understanding what millennials and why they give. You're expanding and you're targeting efforts for that fundraising. It will grow exponentially. And fundraising is the gentle art of teaching the joy of giving by Henry Russo. And these are our resources. You'll have these slides so you can see all that information of where we received it from. And thank you. If you have questions for us, I know you're pressed for time. You're more than welcome to stay after or answer them now. Okay. Sorry, guys. Thank y'all so much.